Hey everyone, it's the Doom Dog. Dalton and I recently finished a playthrough of Fear 3 on the channel. You know what that means. It's time for a review of this game. I know I got frustrated at a few different things as we played throughout this. I will do my best to not let that affect the tone of this review. With that in mind, join me as we take a look at the final game in the Fear trilogy. This is Fear 3. Fear 3 has a reputation as the bad one. It is known as the game that killed the franchise, which I find to be a bit dubious, as it does end the story started in the first game. Discussion of this game at all is rather uncommon when people talk about Fear. When it is brought up, it basically never goes much deeper than that. It was bad, it killed the franchise, and we never get much discussion as to why. I never agreed with this sentiment though. I never thought Fear 3 was bad. So what's going on with Fear 3 exactly? Let's talk about it. Fear 3 was not developed by Monolith like 1 and 2. Instead, it was created by Day One Studios, who worked on the console ports of the first game. The Xbox 360 port was good, but the PlayStation 3 port had some problems. This did not necessarily instill much confidence, but at least they had some personal connection to the franchise, I suppose. It is still strange that it was developed by someone other than the original devs, though. How did this happen? Remember how the Fear license was split between WB and Vivendi? WB maintained the rights to the name Fear, while Vivendi got the rights to the characters. This resulted in Monolith starting development on a sequel to Fear without the ability to use the name, and they called it Project Origin. Day One likewise was working on a direct numbered sequel to Fear that had none of the characters from the first game in it. This game started its existence as a very different shooter called Fear 3 that used none of the characters from the first game. This version of Fear 2 was going to basically be another story involving the Fear Squad that you play a member of in the first game, and they were going to be dealing with some of the other supernatural occurrences that had nothing to do with Armacan or Alma. Instead, it was going to have something to do with something called the Philadelphia Experiment, where there was going to be this technology that allowed people to phase in and out of our reality and into another one. Of course, Vivendi eventually sold the license back to WB, and Monolith was allowed to take their Project Origin game and name it Fear 2. Day One naming their game Fear 2 no longer made any sense, and they were allowed to use characters and story from the first game. Their game was changed to become a sequel to Fear 2, effectively meaning that they were starting from scratch and that they were developing the sequel to Fear 2 while Fear 2 was in development. Developing a sequel to a game that is not even out yet is challenging for sure. How do you keep the story straight? The good news is that Monolith would share builds of Fear 2 with Day One throughout development to keep them up to date on the game, its story, and any changes that were being made over the course of its development. This would help the development of Fear 3 and its story, and help things align with the story being told through the first two games. Which leads us to the story. Fear 3 sees you taking the role of Point Man once again as the main character, and he has Paxton Fettel with him the entire time. If you remember the Fear 2 Reborn DLC, then you know that Paxton is a ghost that can possess human bodies. I do not know what happened to the body he possessed at the end of that DLC, but he is a ghost from the start of this game here. The game starts with you in a South American prison, and the first thing that you need to do is simple. You need to escape. After the first game, Point Man fled the Armacan security forces. He fled to South America, where he was ultimately captured. The ghost of your brother, who you killed in the first game, is here. He does the talking during the cutscenes, as Point Man is a silent protagonist. At the end of Fear 2, Alma does absolutely vile things to Becca and winds up pregnant. She is still pregnant in this game, and the main driving force of this game is to fight through Armacan forces to reconnect with any members of Fear and you have to locate Alma to get to her. That is really the ultimate goal of the game. You are trying to get to Alma. It is relatively simple in that regard. Fear 3's story does provide a definitive end to the franchise, but it does not do too much more than that. For the early part of the game, there really isn't much that even happens at all. Paxton Fettel and Point Man just move from location to location, fighting Armacan security forces, and nothing really happens. It does eventually pick up, you meet some familiar faces, and things do eventually get moving in the story, but it starts off kind of slow. There's some problems with the story as a whole, though. What happened to Fettel's body that he took over at the end of Fear 2 Reborn? It is never explained. Beckett does not get a particularly satisfying ending. He is really only in one scene in this game, and that one scene does not make a lot of sense. It kind of comes across like, why is this here? There is one other thing with this monster that keeps appearing throughout the game that you think is going to build up to something, but they never do much with it. Having said all of this, the cutscenes are quite well done in this game. The camera work is good. The framing is well done. The way it sticks to Point Man's POV quite often is really cool. The cutscenes are stylish, and they are well directed, and they are quite fun to watch, actually. I have heard that that is because of the involvement of John Carpenter, which is believable because he's a great director. I have also heard that his involvement did not go any further than advising on the story. I do not know what the whole truth is, but the cutscenes are good. I just wish the great presentation was used to tell a stronger story. It's just not. It starts off slow. When it picks up, it has a questionable element here and there, as I previously discussed. I appreciate giving a definitive end to Fear, but it would have been nice if it had better writing. It's a shame. Then again, do you really play Fear for the story? The cool story in the first game was a nice bonus to everything else that the game did well. So how is the rest of that? Graphically, Fear 3 is fine. It isn't mind-blowing. It isn't ugly either. It's decent looking. It looks like the most 2011 game ever. That is not necessarily a bad thing because games from that time tend to hold up pretty well graphically, especially at higher resolutions on PC, which is where we played the game. The game does hold up fine graphically. If you play it on a modern PC with modern resolutions, it looks fairly sharp and decent enough. The environments are all fairly detailed. It has a good variety of them too. You will go through a prison, there is a residential neighborhood, you will fight your way through a warehouse type big box store, like a Sam's Club. There's an airport. It does quite well on variety, and it is up to the standards of the time. It's just not pushing PC hardware or anything from that time. It wasn't super high-end. It's a bit of a shame, though, because the first game very much was high-end for its time. It was one of the best-looking games on the market when it was new. It had some of the best lighting that you had ever seen at that time as well. It put hardware through its paces at the time, and a lot of it holds up well today. For Fear 3 to not do the same, I cannot help but feel a little disappointed as a result. It looks fine though, there's nothing wrong with its presentation generally, you just expect more. My one major complaint with this game's graphical settings is the lack of an FOV slider. Why doesn't this game have one? It was pretty much expected for a PC game released by this point. And Fear 3 does not have one. The standard FOV is something like 75 in this game, and you cannot adjust it in-game. Why? You have to do that in a config file. Again, why? It's just stupid. Yeah, aside from that one little detail, Fear looks pretty standard for a 2011 release. It is not high-end for the time, but the standard by then was at a point where it was rather detailed and pretty. It was at a point where games from that time hold up pretty well graphically to this day, and Fear 3 is no different in this regard. It is hard to complain too much because what is here does look good. You just expect more. At the core of every good horror game is sound design, and Fear has some of the best sound design of any shooter you will ever play. It has some big shoes to fill, and it's pretty successful in this regard. I will not say that Fear 3's sound is as good as the first game, but it does sound pretty damn good. The environmental noise is all pretty damn good. I particularly like the sound of the heavy rainfall in the airport level. It sounds great. Another standout is the environmental noise in the big store that you fight your way through. The beeping of the suicide bomber enemies will make you panic. Beyond this, the weapons all sound quite good as well. The various weapons in this game are all loud, and they are very powerful with good bass behind them when you fire them. I love how the shotguns sound. It's awesome. The sniper rifle also has a good boom when you pull the trigger as well. The machine guns all sound loud, quick, and powerful as well. It really sounds quite good, as it should. It's just a hair or two below how the first game sounds, and that is impressive. The voice acting in this game is also pretty damn good. Paxton Fettel gets the most voice lines, and he has that same creepy aura about him where you know that there is something seriously off about this guy. But the rest of the cast is quite well voiced as well. Alma has that same creepy whisper thing going on from the previous games, and the soldiers still sound just like they ever did. This is a good thing, by the way. The music in this game is not what I would call memorable, but it was not designed around the idea of getting stuck in your head. It was designed around the idea of getting under your skin. It is atmospheric, and it is creepy. It can be effective in this regard. So it is definitely a success. It achieves what it sets out to do, and what more could you ask for from a horror game music? It just isn't something that I would get the urge to put on where there are tracks from the first game that I might. All in all, Fear delivers with regards to its audio. The environmental noise is quite good, the weapons all sound loud and powerful, the voice acting is quite good. The music serves its purpose. I have virtually nothing negative to say about this game's soundscape. Play this with a good pair of headphones or a good surround sound system, and it sounds great. How does it play then? This is where I will disagree with a lot of people on this game. I think Fear 3 is fun to play, and I will tell you why. Fear 3 follows the formula that you would expect. You move through linear levels from point A to point B, fighting a lot of enemies along the way. You shoot them, they die, you move on to the next area and repeat. The core loop of the series is here. You still have slow-mo powers, and it is just as much fun as it was in the previous games. The weapons all feel good to fire. The shotgun is a flat-out upgrade over Fear 2. The shotgun felt weak in that game. It feels great in this game. Does not feel quite as good as the first Fear, but it feels so good to fire and to watch enemies fly apart when you shoot them at point blank with it. It's a lot of fun. The penetrator returns, and you can stick enemies to walls with it. It's still awesome. Shooting enemies is fun. The guns are fun. The movement feels right in this game as well. The first game did not have you moving particularly fast, but it had a number of melee moves you could pull off, like a bicycle kick and a slide kick. Transitioning between the various moves and walking and running felt smooth. The second game did not feel right at all. Melee felt weak, and that is not the case here. The melee and the movement feels much more in line with Fear 1, and I am thankful for it. It is better for it. The game does make some major changes to it that are often seen as consolization, though. You have a typical recharging health system in this game, where you had health packs that you would store and use at will in the previous 2 games. I do not like this change. As always, I prefer a health pack system to this. It also has a cover system that I rarely ever actually engaged with. As we played through this game, it was the popular thing at the time, and it just kind of feels like Fear was conforming to what was expected of shooters at the time. There is one final big change that affects everything. Fear is a co-op game. Player 1 takes control of Point Man, and Player 2 takes control of Paxton Fettel. What's cool about this is that Paxton plays differently from Point Man. He is a ghost that can possess enemies and use them until he dies, then he becomes a ghost again. It is cool that you get a different experience playing as him than you do with playing as Point Man. The game also has a point system where, depending upon how Point Man and Fettel play, they will be graded at the end of each level of the game and will be given points. When you reach the end of the game, the points are all added up, and you get one ending or the other depending upon who has more points. This adds a bit of a competitive nature to the co-op play, and it's pretty cool. I am sure the big problem with making this game co-op is glaringly obvious, though. Horror goes right out the window when you play co-op with your friends. Fear 3 is a horror game that isn't scary, with the possible exception of the level set in the department store. That is by far the most memorable part of this game. It, at the very least, is the closest thing the game gets to being scary, which is unfortunate because the first 2 games did not have this problem. Beyond this, there is a problem with playing the game as a single player game as well. You can do it for sure, and you can have some fun with it because the combat in this game is a lot of fun, but it will eventually dawn on you that this game is balanced for 2 players and not 1. The end result can be that it can be frustrating to play at times when you play it as a single player experience. This was probably very obvious if you watch the Let's Play of it because of one last thing that I am about to get to. Fear 3's co-op worked fine for the first couple of sessions where we played it, but that quit being the case afterwards. We would set up a co-op game, we would start playing, and a few minutes later the session would crash out and end. This happened repeatedly, and I do not know why. I tried verifying the files. I tried uninstalling and reinstalling Fear 3. Dalton did the same thing, and nothing changed. We could not get co-op to work. Maybe you will not experience this issue. Certainly others have been able to play through the whole thing co-op just fine, but it happened to us. Be aware because it was very frustrating. Fear 3 is not without its problems. It being a co-op shooter means these scares just are not here. The co-op kept disconnecting for Dalton and I. It added a cover mechanic and got rid of the health packs where the previous 2 games did not need a cover system and did not need a health recharging system. But the core of the combat of this game is still a hell of a lot of fun. Despite the story having problems and this shift toward what was seen as consolization, I still enjoy playing Fear 3 quite a bit. Playing it with a friend is fun as hell and the recommended way of playing it. I like Fear 3. It's quite a bit of fun. Fear 3 has problems that I think it rises above through enjoyable combat and co-op, but what about replay value? Oh, there is plenty of that. Replaying the campaign co-op is a blast in and of itself, And when you beat the single player, you unlock the ability to play through it a second time as Fettel. There are 2 endings to get as well. Fear 3 also has some really cool multiplayer modes. My favorite one was called Fucking Run, where you and your allies are being chased by a giant wall of death that will catch you and will kill you. And you have to take out enemies and move quickly to not let it catch you. If you can get your friends to play it with you, I highly recommend it. It is awesome. There is plenty of replay value here. Fear 3 is a far cry from perfect. It has some narrative issues, it is not scary at all despite being a horror game, and it makes some changes to the gameplay formula that feel unnecessary. I cannot deny this. I also cannot deny how much fun I have had playing it with friends over the years, though. It looks good, it sounds great, it is a blast, especially with friends. When you push past things that make it disappointing as the final game in the Fear franchise, there is a lot of fun to be had here. I definitely recommend it. Getting yourself a copy of Fear 3 nowadays is easy. It is available on both Steam and GOG. I have the Steam version of the game, and that is what you have been looking at throughout this entire review. I had 0 issues getting Fear 3 running on modern hardware, and it has modern resolutions and whatnot available straight out of the box. This really is the easiest way to play it on modern hardware, and it is so old that it will run great on a potato. It is not the only way to play Fear 3 though. The game came to consoles. It is available for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. I have the PlayStation 3 version of the game, and it looks decent enough and runs alright. It shoots for 30 FPS, and it does a decent job holding that a lot of the time. It can and will dip though. It also runs at 720p, as was the standard at the time. The Xbox 360 version of the game is backwards compatible with the Xbox One and Series, where you will get better performance and a higher upscaled resolution. You have to have the physical disc though. It does get FPS boost on the Series X though, so that is the best place to play the console port of the game. Thank you for watching. Fear 3 was a fun one to revisit. It was a lot of fun when the co-op portion worked, and I did not have to play it single player, but I still enjoyed it regardless. I always liked this game despite its shortcomings. I think it is a little underrated because everyone seems to hate it. What did you think of Fear 3? Let us know below. If you could like and share this video, that would help us out a lot. Subscribe for more and ring the bell to make sure you get notifications from this channel. Doomdog out.